are you?
This
Hi,
call may be
everyone.
recorded for coaching purposes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad to have you guys here. Hello, hello. All right, let's see here. We will get started in about 3 minutes, so just hang tight. Hey, everyone. If you're just now joining us, welcome. We will begin in about 2 minutes with Mr. Ryan Deiss and Roland Frazier. So just hang tight. We'll get started. How's everyone doing today? Post in the chat box how your day is going so far. I'd like to see how everyone is doing. Anything fun that you're doing on this wonderful Tuesday? Anything exciting? Let's see. Morning, Kathy. How are you? Hi, Krishna. Hi, Jill. How's everyone doing? Awesome, awesome. Get everyone on here. Late afternoon, Erwin. I get it. Erwin, where are you from? Let's see, we got several people joining us. Belgium, oh, but live in Spain. Awesome. How's everything over in Spain right now, Erwin? Is it good? Fantastic. Did a role play with? Oh, that's awesome. Now, Kathy, tell me, did you do that over the weekend as well? Ah, Jill said, oh, okay. That's fantastic. I saw that you guys were doing that. So super cool that you guys are building those relationships together and doing that. So way to go, Kathy. You did it with Jill and who else? Oh, Mike. Fantastic.
Yeah. Jill and I did it on Sunday, and then Mike Trillo and Jill and I did it this morning.
Congratulations. Good job. And I see we have Mr. Frazier with us and Mr. Deiss is in the house. So let's see here. Ryan, you're muted. I'm gonna make you a co-host.
I know. I like to, have an air of mystery about me. So I speak and you can't hear it. And, that or I just forgot to unmute myself. I'll let you decide.
Awesome. All right, guys. Let's see. Now we had Roland on here. Roland. Awesome. Okay, there's Roland. All right, everyone, we're about to get started. Welcome, welcome. So glad to get everyone here today. And let's get Roland. Roland, we see you. There you are.
Yeah, Zoom was not liking me. It made me restart a couple times. But I am here, and I see that Ryan Deiss is here, hiding his beautiful tuft of hair on top of his head. Have you still got that happening?
Glorious. Yeah, it is still pretty fantastic. I don't know who else is rocking the COVID hair, but this is I'm going full blown troll doll. Is sort of what's happening there. I don't know if
I
you
like it.
quite see that, but yeah,
It's
thank you.
very,
Yeah,
very on trend.
it is
I
good.
love it.
Very on trend.
Well, I'm really excited I'm really excited to have you here today because this is a Deal Team 6 call for our elite folks. And this is for you guys to have an opportunity. Yesterday, Richard Linder came on and talked all about ops. And if any of you were there, I think he just nailed it, knocked it out of the park. Really, really fantastic. We gave you guys a bunch of new tools that we had not talked about before. And they're all part of a product that's being created. So you have first access to that, which is kind of cool. And so Ryan is here today to answer all of your questions about growth strategy. He's really, really fantastic at that. And also kind of like, I guess, scale in the entrepreneurial journey. So anything along those lines. He's grown several companies within the holding company that we've got to, to pretty significant numbers. We've had several exits from that. And so Ryan's a critical part of making that happen. So he's here to answer your questions today. And Ryan, I'll let you, just for those who don't know, tell a little bit about kind of your background and story, and then where you see them getting the best value from the opportunity to chat with you today.
Sure. Thanks, Roland. And it is, it's good to be here with everybody and really to talk business. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about marketing, and I think marketing is probably what I'm best known for. And it's the thing that I'm, from a day-to-day perspective, working and, helping to run Digital Marketer and, helping to start Traffic and Conversion Summit. I think that's probably what I'm best known for. But Roland, as you know, we're not like in the trenches doing the marketing anymore. We have teams that are doing that for us.
I think,
and so
I think sharing, you might be on a little bit of a delay. I think that sharing some of what you and I were talking about yesterday about that would be very helpful to folks here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to hardline in real quick and see if that doesn't help with the delay. Yeah, so just, I guess, quick for
it's
the
like
point
one of those,
of background.
one of those
I've
news
started my
channels
first
where the
company
person's sitting there.
And so I've been doing this. There we go. Is that any better, Roland?
It's catching up.
It's a little better.
It was amazing
I'm going
yesterday.
to allow it to catch up.
No.
Yeah, yesterday you had that new hard line.
Yeah, I'm at the office today. So hopefully it is improving. So been an entrepreneur my whole life. Started in 1999, and the thing that I've always done is marketing. That's what I've been known for. But where we are right now, as we've started so many companies, acquired a number of companies, is we've really had to shift from the doing of the marketing to building teams that do the marketing for us. So very often, I would imagine when you're acquiring these companies, they're going to have not good marketing in place. That's why they're opportunistic buys, and that's a really good thing. So if you come across a company that is succeeding almost in spite of itself with bad marketing, that's a really, really, really good thing. So I want to kind of, if we want to chat about how do you look at getting marketing teams put in place, and how do you get processes in place to make sure that good marketing just happens? I think that's going to be an important thing to focus on. I can go through some of the systems that we have here as well. So that kind of frame the discussion, and hopefully, Roland, you got that. I don't know if I'm still, audible or not, but I was thinking if you want to just talk the building of the marketing teams, the marketing systems and processes, we can go into that. So I'll
Yeah,
figure
let's
we'll
do
open up
that.
to
And then
questions,
while
and
we're
then
doing, while we're doing that, if you guys will put your questions in chat, then we'll keep track of everything and we'll get to them. So we'll let Ryan just kind of talk. And then as your questions come to your mind, just type them in the chat, and then we'll hit all of those once he's kind of, done talking a little bit with his, with what he has to share.
So yeah, so Deanna, please, if a question comes through, please feel free to just interrupt me. What I'd like to do now is just go through the process that I go through anytime I'm thinking about optimizing for a, if we're going to go in and optimize. So let's just say we've acquired a new company, right? The very first thing that we're going to want to do from a sales and marketing perspective, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just share my screen. Okay, can you all see this?
Yes. Yeah, we can
Okay.
see it, Ryan.
Great. So the first thing that you need to do, let's say you just acquired a new company, you're bringing it into your portfolio. The first thing that you need to do is you need to establish some baselines. And this is important because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go in and just do work. You're going to want to jump in head first and say, oh, I can fix this, and I can fix this, and I can fix this thing over here, especially if you have some background and some experience in sales and marketing. You're going to want to go in and you're going to want to fix this stuff. And so I'm going to encourage you, don't do that. Okay. For the first 30 days, I want you to do nothing. All right. Literally, I want you to do nothing with respect to kind of optimizing the marketing in and around the company. The first thing you have to do is establish the baselines and just establish, where are we right now? I'm a big believer in that you cannot optimize until you document. And again, we're shifting the mindset from being an in the trenches marketer, which is where I started. That's kind of where I cut my teeth, into more being, a company leader and an investor, right? If you're going to be an investor, you can't also do the marketing. So how do you install good marketing processes and practices? Step number one is you need to document what is. And I think the first place to start is just to document the process of how customers happen. All right. How does a customer happen? So how does somebody go from a stranger to a friend to a buyer to a multi-buyer to a raving and hopefully referring fan? At Digital Marketer, we've kind of outlined this 8-step process. So this is the framework that we utilize here called the customer value journey. Like I said, there's 8 steps. There's awareness, engagement, subscribes when somebody actually opts in, gets the email address, the convert stage, when do they kind of make that initial micro commitment? What happens in the process where they get excited, right? When you know that you're actually beginning to deliver value, that aha moment has happened. Again, that's critical for you to identify as an investor. Ideally, you can identify what the aha moment is before you ever acquire it. Because if it's a company that's doing pretty well, like it has something going on, especially if the marketing is kind of meh, they're delivering some value in the process, whether they realize that it just might be under optimized. The ascend stage is when we think about upsells and cross sells, right? How do we get somebody, if they buy something, to buy more, increasing average customer value? A lot of the stuff that Roland talks about when he gets into growth and scale. And then the advocate stage, leaving testimonials, customer stories. The promoter is when they are actually becoming a referring, affiliate. You're getting some viral coefficient, that type of thing. And of course, promoters generate more awareness. And so while we visualize it like a journey, it really kind of works a bit more like a flywheel. So these are the stages that we've sort of identified, whether you use, the framework that we have or not. And if you want to go, by the way, digitalmarketer.com/journey, digitalmarketer.com/journey. There's a long post there, totally ungated, and you can download this worksheet. But the very first step that I would do is I would document the process of how does the customer happen. Whether you leverage this framework or another, you need to document the process of how does a customer happen. So generally they become aware through advertising, or is it through referrals, right? But how does awareness happen? How does that initial engagement happen, right? When does a lead get captured? Okay, you have to think about this. Again, we're talking about creating efficiencies here. So we've got to think about marketing not so much as like this artistic form, but more as an assembly line. Okay, this is an assembly line through which the raw material is that general awareness and the needs of the marketplace, and then they're coming in, and what gets produced is a successful customer. All right, each one of these is a dedicated work center. Okay, so this is the process. This is the general flow. Step one is you gotta document it. Okay, what is there? It's the first step when you get in. And I'll tell you, as a part of, and Roland, maybe you could speak to this, but I think as a part of the initial due diligence process, you could even get the owner to supply and to provide something like this. I know we've been asked to do this when we've done some exits in the past. Yeah, anything you would kind of add to that, Roland?
No, I agree with you 100%. I think that's, we haven't really gone deep into due diligence. We won't do that until a few weeks from now, but yeah, absolutely. This should be part of that.
Yeah. So hopefully you get some of it. It'll be good when you get on the other side to confirm. But this is the first step, document what is. Now we need to be able to do is we need to start establishing some metrics and baseline. So I want you to look at these stages. So you see the aware stage, engage, subscribe, and even look at the colors, okay? What we then do is we produce scorecards, okay? And if you notice, and this is really important, a lot of marketers, they produce different metrics and things like that, and oftentimes they're vanity metrics and other things. What you want to do is you want to track metrics by stage of the customer journey. So you see there, that initial stage is the awareness stage, right? So we'll pick 2 or 3 metrics per stage that we're going to track to know, are we doing a good job in this stage? Okay, what about the engage stage? Are we doing a good job in this stage? Okay, and so this is the tool that we use, and I can get you a link. Deanna, remind me, I'll get everybody a link to where they can access this Google Sheet, so you can use this. Normally, the only way that you would get this, by the way, is if you were a digital marketer certified partner, which is $10,000 a year, or in our higher level coaching program. So,
and Ryan, we'll put everything in the directly into everyone's Kajabi account. So we'll put links to this in there, so you guys don't have to worry about emailing or anything like that. It'll all show up as soon as this recording shows.
Great. So you have this scorecard. Now you've identified the stages. You can pick a couple of metrics, and there is a tab in there where it's metrics ideas. So if you can't think of what should I track, we've got a list of ideas and things. And again, as a part of due diligence, you may want to even ask for some of these things ahead of time so that you can begin to gather and collect. But remember, first 30 days, we are in pause mode. We're in establishing baseline mode. So again, the first thing that you do is you choose your metrics. And again, pick metrics by stage. 1, 2, at most 3 metrics per stage. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try to think, what should the target be? Now, it's a really good if you're dealing with a new owner. And again, if you're doing this during due diligence, to ask them, you know, what is a good number for unique visitors? You know, what is a good number on the subscribe side for total number of leads generated in a month? You know, what's your target amount, right? Very often, one of the clearest signs of, are you dealing with a sophisticated business owner, is do they know their numbers? And so if you're planning on making a full-blown all-out purchase and you're going to exit the owner from it, maybe you don't care so much, but if you're going to bring them, you know, in, you're acquiring the company, but they're going to continue to operate it, their knowledge of these numbers is going to tell you how sophisticated are they, how well do they know their business. Okay, so what's the target? Where do we want to be? And I'm going to encourage you, if you get it, you're on the other side, you didn't know it, guess. Okay, guessing is good. Guessing is how we learn. It's the scientific method, right? We make an observation. Next step, hypothesis, right? Guess. So guess, what should the target be? And then, because then what I want you to do is, and you're going to do this 1 per month. Okay, so a new tab per month. And what I want you to do is I actually want you to create and fill in your growth scorecard for the previous month. So let's say right now it is May, right? So if you're at the end of the month, maybe you fill it in for, that month. But if you're kind of, in the first half of a month, go back to the previous month and fill it in for that month. This is going to tell you a couple things. Number one, how easy was it to actually find these different metrics? How easy was it to get these different KPIs? The second thing that it's going to tell you is how close were you on your targets? Okay, so and again, a lot of you aren't going to want to do this. You're going to want to go fill it in for the previous month and then establish your targets. Don't do that. Again, you won't have the learnings. You will just allow history to decide what good is. So fill it in for the previous month. Then what you do is you begin measuring it moving forward. So the actuals, okay? Measure it for the actuals. See, we've got a column for week 1, a column for the 2nd week of the month, 3rd week of the month, 4th week of the month, given that most months are going to, run over. That's where you have that kind of remainder column is in there. So you add all of these up in the actual, and those should be either a unit number or a percentage that accumulates. And what you have there is just a gap. What is the difference between the actual and the target? And based on that difference, you can then assign a status score. Okay. Now, eventually, again, you should not be the one who is doing this. Eventually, it needs to be the person heading marketing or growth, or maybe it's an ops person who is doing this. But I don't know, across all of our different companies, it is impossible for me. It's impossible for Roland to remember, okay, 10,000 new leads this month. Is that good or is that bad? I can't remember, right? When you have a lot of these different companies, I can't remember, but here's what I can remember. Green is good, red is bad, okay? So I want this red, yellow, green status because if I see that it's that dark green, that means that we're on track or we're ahead of goal. Don't need to talk about it. If I see that it's light green, it means we're a little bit behind, but we have every reason to believe we'll catch up. Maybe it's a seasonality thing, whatever. Again, not asking a lot of questions. If I see yellow, yellow is we're behind, but the team is saying we have every reason to believe we'll be green next week. Maybe they made a pivot. Again, maybe it was just a scheduling thing, but yellow still okay, but you might ask a couple of questions, maybe probe a little bit. Light red is, or kind of that orange is we're behind. We're not so far behind, but we can't catch up, but we don't know how to do it yet, right? We need some help. So this is when, you might want to dive in and pay particular attention. And that dark red is we're behind. There's no hope of getting caught back up. Some of our assumptions were off. Our targets are off. And this is when you really need to get everybody together. So just by looking at the red, yellow, and the green, that in and of itself is enough for you just at a glance to say, how we doing from a growth and from a marketing perspective. Now, I want to pause there, Roland, and just see, are there any questions about this before we go?
There are.
Before we go forward?
You want? Well, actually, yeah, I'll take you through them, Ryan. There are several. So first, Adam asked, if you're building a marketing team from scratch, what would be the sequence of hiring to build that department out?
Yeah. So in this case, again, going back to the sheet, you really would want to look for the areas of where's it red, because you know that that's where the need is. Now, if you're building it completely from scratch, right? If it's completely from scratch, I always encourage the first hire to be somebody who's in a demand generation role. And so demand gen would be somebody who is, can help to run your Facebook ads, your Google ads, things like that. You must have content, but content is something that once it's produced, it can be done a lot. So you could hire an outsourcer or you could hire a writer to produce some base content, but the amplification of that content is something that's going to need to be managed on a regular basis. So somebody who's really charged with that is where I would start. Then I would bring on somebody who's in more of a full-time content production role. So this is could be a managing editor, a content marketer. Maybe they've got a bit of an organic search background, but I would always go with somebody who can be on the paid side, that demand generation side, then content, then somebody generally to focus specifically on email, because as you build a list, email follow-up and things like that becomes a lot of heavy lifting. So start with awareness, frankly, because you have to generate that to create all the other problems. Then you go into content, which is a lot like engagement, right? So you can see how the flow of the hiring also follows the flow of the customer journey.
That's great. Thank you, Ryan. So Erwin was asking, what are you looking for before buying a business with respect to marketing? Is that the scorecard stuff or what?
For me, I love businesses, I mentioned this before, that are doing well in spite of themselves. So give me a business with bad marketing that, give me a business with really bad marketing that still is doing a good job, that has very happy customers. I'm way more interested in happy customers than great marketing. And this is not just because I'm a marketer first. This should be the same for you. If you're buying a business, fixing the customer experience, and Roland, you know this because this is your forte. Fixing the customer experience is one of the most difficult things that you will do. And if it's been bad for a long time, then it means the brand is really bad. So you're going to just be digging out of that hole. So give me somebody with, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I would start my assessment with an NPS. We had the same thing, NPS or CSAT. NPS is Net Promoter Score, and CSAT is Customer Satisfaction Score. And basically, they're the things with the, how likely would you be to refer our service or product to a friend? And they've got like the frowny face to the happy face, or a 1 to 10. Those are the best way to measure the future potential success of the company, because if people would not refer, if you've got a poor NPS score, then that's going to be a lot to overcome. That's a brand problem, right? That means the brand promise has not been met consistently for long enough to create a negative goodwill. So that would be tough, right? So I think and Ryan, you can chime in too, that if you take an NPS initially, and remember Richard talked about yesterday taking an employee NPS. So if you take a customer NPS to see how likely are your customers to recommend your product or service to a friend, and you have an employee NPS to say how likely are you as an employee to recommend this company to a friend to work at, then you're really going to get a feel for the quality of the company that underlies bad marketing. And if you can find happy customers with bad marketing, they're just not being reached properly, but they're being very well served, then the brand is strong, the brand promise is being met, and all you've got to do is figure out how to get more people to be aware of this amazing brand, right? So and I think that's like kind of a way to quantify what Ryan was saying for anybody that was thinking, well, how do I know, what that great company, bad marketing thing is? That's a great way to do it. So that would be a good place to start. Ryan,
yeah.
Quentin said he's not sure if you're going to cover this, but he'd be interested to know what you would do to monetize a poorly monetized traffic asset, like a Facebook group, when you acquire it to make money quickly. And also throws in that he loves Digital Marketer and thanks for the email that recommended this program. He did spell everything kind of weird. He's like using S's instead of Z's and throwing extra E's in. I don't know what that's about.
He must be a foreigner, much like the beautiful Brian Plum, whose face I'm also looking at right now. And we love them very much.
Yes, we do.
We love our friends from across the pond. I totally forgot the question because I was distracted by the glory that is.
The question is, how do you monetize a poorly monetized Facebook, like a traffic asset, like Facebook group or something?
So I'm a big believer in media first. So we always want to generate an audience first. And so I love, and this has been our model. We want to build or acquire media for the purpose of then selling them something. So I would go into it from the outset knowing what am I going to sell them when I buy it. I know that may be too late, but ideally you're buying a media property to get more awareness to, a business and a monetization vehicle that you already have, because that's the fastest way to do it. The fastest way to do it is to have the monetization first, buy the media, sell them the thing you got. Let's say that isn't the situation. I would go back, and when you're acquiring, again, you can learn so much in due diligence. Ask them, because remember, during due diligence, they're going to want to talk about how valuable this thing is, how much money it's made. And so that's where you can ask them questions like, well, what have you done to generate revenue in the past? What affiliate offers have performed the best? What are the products that you wish that you had planned on creating because you knew your audience wanted that? It is amazing how often we've acquired businesses, and it's amazing how often we have allowed in our own businesses. We've promoted something in the past that did really well. We did it once and we never went back and did it again. So the fastest way to monetize a media property is to simply go back over the previous 12 months and say, what was the most successful thing that they did, and do that again. And it
Ryan,
sounds super simple, but they haven't done it because it's old, but it isn't old to the customers and it isn't old to you.
Yeah, and I'm going to unmute Quentin just to be sure we got his question answered. So Quentin, did that do it, or do you have a little bit more you would like to know?
Yeah, no, that answer really was just, I don't have any particular in mind, but if buying a Facebook group, what the quickest way is to monetize it. I guess if you're using an old offer, how often can you go back and revisit that offer? You're saying if it worked maybe a number of months ago, how often would you sort of promote that?
A lot of it depends on the intensity by which you promoted it. So let's think about if it's a product launch where maybe it was promoted for 2 to 3 weeks. That's the kind of thing that you're looking at. You could go back and re-promote it every probably 4 to 6 months. If it is just a casual promotion, something that was done as a sale, or maybe you promote it over the course of 3 days, you can literally go back and do that every 30 to 60 days. Now, you can only do that so many times before it gets completely tired, just because you've pulled all the fish out of the pond. Everybody who is ever going to buy has bought. So if you're not bringing new people in, the better an offer converts, the faster it's going to die to that audience. Not because it wasn't a successful offer, but because it was so successful. So yeah, but in general, I would look, and especially if there's bad marketing involved, which there only always is, if they haven't done it in the last 60 days, you're probably all clear to run it again. You can also go in and do surveys to the list and gather data. But again, since the question was around speed, if you run a survey, it takes some time to put that together, it takes some time to get the information back. You're getting the feedback of people who fill out surveys, which isn't necessarily your buyers all the time. So I would always rather get the information based on previous data, not survey data. It's faster and it's more reliable.
Is there a danger if you over promote an offer, people might start getting kind of annoyed and leave and fed up? Or do you find that in practice that doesn't matter, they just ignore it if it's over promoted?
I think there's absolutely a danger of that, and I think you need to, we're getting into some gray area, because so much of it depends on how often. So somebody's over promotion could be somebody else's we haven't talked about this in forever. So I think you just have to use some of your own good judgment. And I think if you're generally a nice, cool person and you're like, I feel like I'm kind of being uncool, right? Like a digital marketer. But there were times when we way over promoted stuff. I mean, we've been guilty of it a number of times. And it's because, we got people on the marketing team who they've got a metric that's a revenue number. And so they're going to push to hit that revenue number. And you want that, right? You want people who have that, but you kind of need to be standing there saying, yeah, but are we being okay? Are we being uncool? And so I'm being deliberate in my language because it is just so subjective. But is there a danger of it? Absolutely. In my experience, most people err on the opposite side. Most people err on the side of not doing enough. They think, I promoted this thing 90 days ago. Does anybody remember 90 days ago was a billion years ago, right? Now, obviously we've had a global pandemic between now and then, but let's say you haven't had a global pandemic. Nobody remembers what happened 90 days ago. So in my experience, marketers and business owners are more likely to assume that their list and that their community and their audience remembers more about what they do than they actually do. You know, a digital marketer, we got people who go weeks without opening an email because they're busy, they got lives. And then all of a sudden they're opening emails and they go and they buy a bunch of stuff, and then they consume and they may go another few weeks or a month without buying anything. And then they're back again, right? It doesn't mean that they were necessarily disinterested. It's just life happens. So I think it's important that you're always there. That's the mistake that people make, is they're like, oh, they're not paying attention. I need to back away. You always want to make sure that you continue to show up.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Quentin. Okay, let's see. Dustin says, for documenting the process, would that be something we could ask the previous owner before the purchase, or better to go in ourselves with the operator afterwards, or probably both?
Yeah, you want to get it beforehand during due diligence. I would even, that link that I gave you, digitalmarketer.com/journey, you might even send them a link to that and say, hey, as a part of this, and again, Roland is going to get to this, but the amount of things that you can ask people to do during due diligence is borderline criminal. We're going to, don't be a jerk, but you really can ask and request a lot, and it's appropriate to do so. And I think a very appropriate thing to ask for is to say, you know, what does your customer journey look like? Here's the format and the framework that we use. Can you just kind of roughly, generally fill it out? It doesn't have to be perfect. I understand. We'll go back and validate it. We just want to understand what is your funnel like? How does the process happen? And so you can definitely get it, but I would absolutely go back and validate it after the fact.
Cool. And Kathy wanted to know, who is the owner of filling in that scorecard document if you're acquiring and not a marketing expert?
So ideally not the same people who are responsible for those numbers, because honest people can still lie without realizing it with numbers. So on our team, we have somebody on the operations team who is responsible, Justin, who's responsible for basically making sure that it is filled out. Now, because it's a lot of numbers, the people who are responsible, they do fill it out, but we've got somebody who's checking it. And so either you've got somebody who's filling it out who isn't responsible for the numbers, or you have somebody who is checking it after somebody else who is responsible has added them in. Here's what I will tell you, and if the question wasn't asked, I'm sure that it will be. Can we go with like an automated dashboard tool, right? Can we use like a grow.com or you know, one of the other billions of business intelligence tools that are out there to do this automatically? The answer is yes, eventually. I'm going to really encourage you to do this by hand for at least the first 90 days. You'll learn a lot. The team will learn a lot if you do it by hand. And also you'll find the areas where it's just so easy for those tools to break, and the management and administration of them becomes a full-time job. So it's worth getting done. And look, if you're the only person, then that, you know, congratulations. I guess that's you for a bit, but it really should be somebody on the marketing team, or somebody on the ops side, and somebody on the ops side needs to be confirming what the marketing people are doing.
So Ryan, and Kathy, I've unmuted you so you can ask your question, or you can ask clarifying questions to that. But I think, Ryan, what she's thinking about is she's not a marketing expert, and then she likes the tool, but doesn't feel maybe qualified or knowledgeable enough to go in and fill it out accurately. So if she gives it to them and says, you guys fill it out, or like who do you think owns that when and Kathy, you can say that's completely wrong, or yes, that's right. But that's, I think, what she's after.
Yes, I think there's myself and a few others in the group that we don't have marketing backgrounds whatsoever, but we would like to acquire and build a marketing team. And so knowing the process of how to do that, and then who would fill this out in that case, and how to go about that.
And keep in mind, for the marketing team, you have the hiring and management intensive that Ryan and Rich did that you have. So that will help you with the building a marketing team, as well as some of the stuff that Richard gave you yesterday. So go ahead, Ryan. Yeah,
and in that one, we did break down specifically building of a marketing team. Hopefully a company that you acquire, there's somebody there. And so that's kind of my assumption, is that you're not working completely from scratch. But all of the numbers that you would track are, they need to be highly objective, right? So how many unique visitors did we get, right? We got this many. And there should be somebody there who we say, okay, how did you get that? Well, we go here and we look in Google Analytics to get that. Okay, great. Now the number is the number. And anybody who's ever done anything in analytics, there will always be 5 or 6 ways to pull the same number, and they'll all be different. So what you need to do is you need to decide, this is how we pull this number, and make them document it. Okay, show me how you pull this number. I log into Google Analytics. I go over here, I select unique visitors. Okay, so it's unique, it's not total. Yep, unique visitors over this date range to these pages, because people come into this page, they're not necessarily that, right? So you figure out what all the exclusions are, that gets documented. And now anybody moving forward should be able to go and pull that number exactly, as it is. So what you, and I say like up to 3 per stage. With many of these, you'll have 1. Right? So you may be looking at, on the subscribe stage, okay, we want to look at total number of leads, but we'd also like to track our average landing page conversion rate. Okay, what percentage of the people who hit this page wind up opting in? Well, maybe that's something you want to track, but you can't. So don't track it yet. Just look at the number of leads. We'll get to that later when you get a team in. So it's fine. A lot of these though, how many total customers, how many new unique customers we get, that's all available in the shopping cart. You don't have to be a marketer to go and, and pull that. What's our average order value? Again, generally that's going to be in different shopping cart solutions. Or you say, how much money do we make? How many customers do we have? Divide one by the other, you got the number. So most of these are just kind of basic business metrics that really anybody should be able to pull. They're not truly, marketing metrics in that, in that sense. Some of them might be, but you don't have to go that granular just yet until you get the marketers in who are actually able to impact those numbers.
Great, thanks.
Cool. Thank you, Kat. Okay, Brian Plum says, I'm going to unmute you, Brian, so that you can clarify if you'd like. But Brian is asking, if the client has Google Analytics or something like that installed, would it be wise to create a best of scorecard where you can identify what the highest number of all the metrics has ever been? That could support the target, but also be an additional big goal.
Yeah, I love working from past wins for sure. The issue is, sometimes there's spikes, and I think it's worth going and looking at, because you go back and you see like, what was this big spike? What the heck happened here? This is amazing. And like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I guess back then, we did this big promotion where we did a Black Friday sale, and I guess it did well. Okay, you didn't do one last year? No, we just forgot. Like, now I say that, but you know who else has done that? So I think it's a great idea to go back and look, because very often the best ideas are going to come from the outliers and the anomalies, because the anomalies weren't that anomalous. I don't know if that's a word. The anomalies is really great. The anomalies are very often where you find the breakthroughs that occurred and weren't repeated, either because people didn't realize at the time what they were doing, they were unconsciously competent, or it worked so well they never did it again, which is the running joke at our company. And the thing that just, I know, bugs the crap out of Roland. He's like, why don't we go back and do that? So yeah, marketers, and this especially if you got a company with a lot of marketers, they want to do new stuff. If you've got a visionary leader, they want to do the new stuff. They're bored with the old. They're bored with it. They believe the customers are bored with it. They think everybody's seen it. It's only never true. Just go back and repeat it. So yeah, Brian, I think it's a great idea, not only to create perhaps a stretch goal, because I think from a target, your target needs to be based on present realities, right? So if you're going back and you're looking in 2 years ago, the circumstances were different. I don't think it's fair to necessarily have a target be something in the past that was the highest high if it's outside of the context of where the business is today. But I think it's great to have, a stretch out there that is documented somewhere, for sure, so that people can see like, it could be this good. We've done this before. Cool.
Brian, any other questions, thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, thanks, Ryan. I think, as you know, our key agency has really there's a lot of seasonality on it. So ignoring the seasonal side of stuff at the moment, I think what I was really thinking of is obviously when there's an acquisition, there's a huge amount of headbutting and a lot of fear, I think, from both sides as to what's going to happen. And I think one of the things I was looking at is if we go for a target, that's cool. But if we also have best case scenario or what's actually happened best case scenario, for me, I like with our marketing teams for a like group ownership of stats, like your job might not be to generate leads, but your job here, you may have an amazing idea that by vocalizing that, the leads generation team could do something cool with. So I think for me, by having, here's what the best stats have been, barring seasonal issues, here's what the best stats have been. We've got our goal, but look what we could do. And the day we beat those stats, like everybody wins. And I think for me, that could be a real big thing for reducing the amount of friction with an acquisition of saying, we're all in it together. And these are like what we've done before. We're going to better that. And that's what we're going to get to as a team. But here's the targets that we have in order to reach that. So that's what I was sort of thinking. Yeah.
I love that. And just to kind of add some additional clarification to the process as a whole. Okay. So we've got the growth scorecard. I'm going to encourage when you go to create that is a collaborative effort. All right. You bring in the team, you bring in the stakeholders. Now, leading up to that meeting, you should know, okay, we've decided that these are going to be the metrics that we believe matter. Okay, so and again, that can be a collaborative effort as well. Hey, everybody, what do we think we should track, for awareness? What do you think it should be this? We're not gonna look at numbers yet, but just what would we like to see? 1 to 3 per stage, what are we thinking? So you get general agreement on that. Then you have an actual brainstorming meeting where you pull everybody together, probably not in the same room because that's how we all die, but you bring everybody generally together, and that's where you go through and say, okay, everybody, what should our target be for this one? And what I like to do is I like to have everybody write down what they believe the target should be. Because if you say, what do you think it should be? And somebody says, I think it should be 10,000, everybody's gonna go, sounds good, right? The first voice that speaks will be the right one, especially if it's the highest paid person in the room, okay? So you have everybody go and say, all right, write it down. And you could even give people, those little whiteboards, the small whiteboards, they could write it and then hold it up. It's a bit like scoring at the Olympics, 9.5, right? So you have them write it down, and then you go and you look and you go, okay, maybe everybody's about the same. You go, seems like everybody generally agrees it's this. Y'all cool with this? Great. Now, where you see the big disparities, that's where you want to call those things out. So you want to say, Jim, you've got 10,000. Alice, you've only got 4,000 leads. That's a big gap. Like, what was your thing here? What was your thing here? And you'll learn a lot from that interaction. But a good thing to bring to that meeting, to your point, Brian, is what was the best ever? Because that's where you could kind of have in your back pocket, gosh, why is everybody sandbagging? We've done this before. Why can't we do that? And so have that as an aspect of the discussion is a really good way to drive that meeting. But you as the new owner, and this is important to prevent the butting of heads, you should not dictate the targets. You should facilitate that meeting and allow your team to pick what they believe the target should be. Yes, you should guide and coach and instruct, be like, oh, do you think we could do more? But if they're like, that's the most I want to commit to, okay, great, we'll leave it at that. But bring that, because that can be a tool to have in your back pocket.
Love it, thank you.
Let's see, what was I kind of lost the thing. Roland, are you still, or Deanna?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm looking for you. A couple more. Let's see here.
Oh, I see. Any tips / software for tracking inbound sales calls versus customer service calls as a growth metric? I'm not really the tools guy, but just about any CRM with some type of phone solution built in and integrated should be able to accomplish that for you. I will just tell you, where a metric is difficult to track, don't track it. Because if this scorecard is hard to do, if it takes an incredibly long time, you'll stop. So in the beginning, err on the side of like, yep, this is a piece of cake to get. Err on the side of less data, but more consistent and accurate data. You can layer on the complexity later on. I don't know what we use, but I mean, if you've got, HubSpot or Salesforce, there's all types of solutions. Once you know kind of what that core CRM is that you're using, make sure you just go with a phone system that integrates, go into their app store, stuff like that. But in terms of which one, there's so many that do it. Just pick the one that works best with the CRM that you have.
Okay, you have one from Daniel Hirschberger. He says, are there any tips or software for tracking inbound sales calls versus the customer
Sorry, I think
service
that's the one I just.
Oh, I'm
I think
sorry.
that's the one I just answered.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was
and I
looking at
mean,
Brian's.
with
Sorry.
that, no, it's fine. With that, in terms of inbound sales calls versus customer service calls, they should just be two separate numbers. That's what we do. They're two different numbers.
Okay, so the next one is from Terry. Hey, Terry. How much information, Ryan, do you share, where and with who when it comes to the KPIs? Do you have an escalation system when it's not going so well?
So all the numbers that I just showed you on that scorecard, I would encourage you to make those public. I'm not a huge fan of open book management. Obviously, if it's your business, you can do what you like. But the idea of sharing like all revenue, all cash flow, all P&L, like all everything with everybody, to me, it kind of burdens people with information that isn't necessarily relevant. They don't know what to do with. There's different philosophies on this. I'm prepared to be wrong. There's people much smarter than me who do believe in open book management. I don't. So, but everything I just showed here in that scorecard, I would make that public. Because if somebody is responsible, like the things that you measure and the things that you make public are the things that will move. People do not want to allow those things to be read for long because everybody knows who's responsible for that one. So I like making them public. And in terms of the escalation system, when it's yellow, you're asking questions. When it's red, you're calling people together and saying, hey, what's the plan? Let's get this thing figured out. Growth happens when you turn red to yellow and yellow to green. But the most valuable thing that you can do is actually to turn green to yellow. In other words, raise the targets, raise the standards. So when you see that, gosh, it's been green for a while, it's time to increase this, then go, we're raising the targets. Everything that was green is now yellow. Woo. Now, when you do that, celebrate it. Take everybody out, do some type of reward system because it's a big thing, but do make sure that you celebrate that.
Cool. Looks like Rob Wallace has one. He says, I'm looking at buying a dry cleaning business where they are owner operated and marketing is very minimal. Should I still take the 30 days to document their marketing?
I would still take the 30 days to document the marketing before you go in and start implementing new marketing systems and processes and campaigns and things like that. Look, you're going to be busy enough in the first 30 days that you're not going to have much time to do anything other than monitor. I'm a big believer, especially when you're coming into a new organization, first do no harm. Okay, this is usually doctor. And again, going back to the friction, if there's a team there, there's kind of a running joke in the marketing world. A chief marketing officer isn't going to last when the first thing they do is update the homepage. Right? So a new CMO comes in, they want to put their stamp on the business and they go and update the homepage. How can you possibly do that before you know that company? Like, how can you possibly do it before you know the ins and outs? Like, even if you're right, you don't have the credibility yet. So yeah, even if it's simple, I would still take 30 days to track it. Now, look, if something's clearly just broken, like, I mean, if it's just broken, everybody agrees that it's broken, it's gushing blood, miserable failure, and everybody in the company's like, please help us, then don't be dogmatic. Be like, hold on, we need to track this for 30 days. Obviously, don't do that. Fix the things that are broken and gushing blood. But beyond making changes and optimization, I would not optimize until you have tracked and established baselines for at least 30 days.
Awesome. And then Gennaro just wanted to say he thinks you look great in your hat and that you look comfortable. So there's that.
Thank you. Yes, it'll be the new when we come back from the quarantine. This will be the new cozy Ryan. So casual Ryan coming your way.
Awesome. And then Victor's asking if you have any SOPs for what you're going through that you can provide, or that you just want to know if that's already been done rather than them creating from themselves.
I believe that, so a ton of these SOPs are in templates inside of Praxio, which I believe that some folks got a license to.
Everyone here.
We also, yeah, and also in terms of, I mean, not to do a pitch for lab, but if you're not a digital marketer lab member, we have 36 different playbooks for kind of all the different things that you would want to do, whether it's launching a Facebook ad campaign or different stuff like that, that really are kind of step-by-step SOP that you could use as a guide to build your own SOPs. That's our, that's our database. Like that's what we do internally winds up in, inside of Lab. So I would probably start there.
We have a trial for Lab too, right? That they could sign up for, to where they get that for like not a lot of money to start.
I believe it's close to $0 to start. And so there's a 30-day trial, and I guess you could presumably go and write everything down for 30 days, in the first 30 days, write everything down, and then go in the app and cancel it and, pay nothing and snag all of our stuff.
A better idea would be to go and do that, and then and see if you find that very helpful, because Lab is was it $100 a month?
Yeah, $95 a month.
Yeah, it's inexpensive and it's constantly updated. So that's a place to do it too. But yeah, you guys do have Praxio, and Ryan, that'd be something for us to talk about when we get off the call, to schedule some sort of Praxio training for everybody, so they can, we can walk them through those 33 templates for SOPs and stuff that are in there.
And if you're brand new, you'll get your access to Praxio by the end of this week. We've already submitted it. So if you're just new to the group, you'll get that. Don't worry. I know several questions have come in. If you are already existing in the group, you should already have it. If you don't, let me know.
Ryan, Irwin would like to know, anti-digital marketer question. How would you look at marketing which is not online, like cold calling, personal visits, etc.? Undigital marketing.
Look, the reality is there's two things. There's message and there's amplification. That's it. That's why when people are like, okay, if I want to get good at marketing, what's the #1 skill I need to learn? Copywriting, period. Right? Because all marketing really is the amplification of a message. If you amplify a crappy message, your marketing will fail. If you do a bad job amplifying a great message, then that's when you're kind of beginning to succeed in spite of yourself. So whether you're leveraging digital marketing, which simply means you're leveraging digital channels. So a digital channel would be a Google ad in search, or a social ad on Facebook or Instagram, or email. All of these have their terrestrial analogs, right? All of them have a version, a non-digital version that still is just, when it's email, instead of it being print in an email, it's, to direct mail, it's a letter and a page. And last I checked, Roland, you're still making lots of money crushing it with direct mail in one of your businesses, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing, right? It's just, you basically write an email, click print, fold it, and send it through the mail. Like it's the same thing. Face-to-face, that if you think about what would be a really good social ad, it needs to engage very quickly, right? Somebody's scrolling in their feed. Like, how do you capture their attention? Face-to-face, if somebody walks into a store, the first words that person at the desk says when somebody walks in, that's copy, right? That is the equivalent of what, if you got a winning Facebook ad, what is the first line of that Facebook ad? Have your people say that. So there are technical and tactical differences for how these things are deployed. But at the end of the day, all marketing and advertising ever is the amplification of a message, whether you're amplifying it through Google or direct mail or outbound or, an event. Get your message dialed in, and you can leverage online to test message quickly and cheaply, and then bring it offline is kind of maybe a tip that I would have there.
Love it. And Odette asked, how does one acquire a Facebook group when it's not allowed by FB? Odette, we answered that a few times in the challenge and also in the training, but it's very possible with so much content you missed it. You're not able to acquire ownership of a group because all of the groups are owned by Facebook. But what you can do is you can acquire control of the group from the administrator. So that's what we're after, is acquiring control of the group from the administrator. And groups are sold all the time. We have sold and bought several that way. So we're not actually getting ownership of the group because Facebook owns that. Mark Zuckerberg gets to own that and do what he wants with them. But we do get to control the audiences, and so that's just a question of documenting the purchase. And I gave instructions on how to do that in the challenge. Let's see. Ryan, question from Sunny. What are the key metrics to look for in your email specialist for growth?
So it's unclear. The key metrics, are we looking at kind of the skills to look for in hiring an email specialist? Or are we looking at the specific metrics when evaluating the performance of email as a whole?
I am looking for Sunny. Yeah, there he is. Okay,
Sunny's
Sunny.
just looking for evaluation.
Yeah, Sunny, I unmuted you if you want to clarify.
Hi. The question is, like, when you're looking for email specialists, what are you looking them to do for, like, new campaigns or old campaigns? Are they trying to, like, do email sequencing on a message, or, you know, different traits to really look for in what you're doing, encompassing it?
Yeah, so an email specialist first and foremost needs to be good at crafting email campaigns. So a campaign is a collection of emails. So they should be, so when you say like, so I would ask, if I'm talking to somebody, you know, what in your opinion is a good structure of a follow-up email campaign for a new lead that we want to sell this type of product to? How would you generally do that? How many over what period of time? And it almost doesn't matter what they say. It just matters that they seem to have a, well, you know, you want to do this and this and this, you know, they need to have some type of a process. I'm way more interested in how does somebody evaluate the process than I am what do they specifically tactically do, because that can all be changed. It's a matter of testing, right? But if somebody's like, you know, we want to do this and want to make sure that, you know, the first email is kind of going to accomplish this, and by the second one we need to be doing this, by the third one this, and so just asking scenario-based questions around how would you structure a campaign to do that. How would, you know, if we wanted to roll out a brand new product to an existing audience, how would you go about doing that? What resources and tools would you need? So I would just go and ask a lot of scenario-based questions, and you don't have to know that what they said is right. You just have to know that they clearly are doing it based on a process, because the best email people, they're going to work from templates. They're going to work from proven processes and structures. Email is one of those areas where creativity gets very, very, very expensive. Ask me how I know. And so you don't want necessarily, if they're going in there like, oh, well, really, it just depends on the design. I mean, first of all, we just have to design a beautiful email, one that'll just really enhance the brand. Nope, that ain't it. And so they need to be able to craft great copy, and they need to understand how a structure and flow of that sequence would go. And this is, again, where you having just a little bit of education, enough to be able to call BS, is helpful. And so that's where some of the materials, again, not trying to turn this into a shameless pitch for digital marketer, but some of the materials in there to go through that would be beneficial, just so you know the questions to ask. But yeah, you're looking for process, copy first. They see it as copy first. They don't see it as design, and they don't look at it as sending one-off emails, but they look at it as sending out a series of emails in the form of a campaign.
Awesome.
Very cool. Sonny, did I get you?
Oh yeah, wonderful. That's very clear.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, Yev says, I just bought a Facebook group, 200,000 plus people. Monetizing will be easy if I make a hire. I'm learning not to dig in myself, but now I'm tempted to acquire complementary traffic assets to amplify each other. How do I prioritize hiring for M&A investment initiatives versus operating? In other words, hiring to monetize the group or focusing on the partnership M&A that will already have a team in place to leverage the group. So I'll let you go first, Ryan, and then I'll chime in.
I would think you've got to have the operators first. Otherwise, you know, if you're going to create this scenario where if you hire for the M&A side, then you're going to have a lot of deals coming through that you're paying for, but nobody on the back end to monetize those things. So now we're getting, you know, work in process inventory basically stacking up in front of this machine that's supposed to turn these deals into money, and like, yay, deal after deal after deal. And they just sit there and die on the vine. We've done that. Right? Yeah. We've bought deals, we've bought companies, and they were very opportunistic.
As recently as last year.
As recently as last year. But we didn't have a plan for them. We didn't have a team for them. We didn't have anywhere to put them. We didn't have a way to monetize it. It was, you know, it was a good enough deal, opportunistic enough. There were reasons to do it. It's not like we're, you know, having to take out a second mortgage to buy. We bought it out of, you know, existing cash flow and stuff like that. But we bought that thing and it's kind of just sat there. Now it's an asset. We'll use it, but I think it's way more important that you build up your operational capacity than it is that you build up your deal flow capacity, because 1 or 2 deals a year is a lot. It can make you a ton of money. And so it's more important that you monetize in the back.
Agree 100%. 100%. Let's see. I think we are down to Jasuk. What is your opinion of using CopyPro AI by our buddy John Benson if she doesn't yet have a copywriter?
Love it. We use it internally. And again, it's because good copy is formulaic. And what I'll say about copy is it's very difficult to write truly earth-shattering breakthrough copy from a template. What you can produce from a template is really good, high-functioning, profitable copy. If you don't have a template, what you're going to produce 9 times out of 10 is a turd. Okay, so I think you're far better off to work from a template. And you know, I know John. I've watched John as he built that tool over the last, you know, few years. And what he started from were all the best, highest converting templates. And what it does is it automates what kind of any professional copywriter would do anyway, which is I'm going to start from my swipe file and I'm going to begin to take the concepts and the phrases over here, apply it to this proven offer, and kind of meld it together and make it work. It's simply automating that. I don't say that to minimize the tool, because it's, you know, it's great, but what it is doing is it's automating the process that all copywriters go through anyway. And so yeah, I think it's a great solution. I would, however, say get somebody on the team who can write copy. If that's not you, then really that should probably be your very first marketing hire, is somebody who can produce at least functional, capable copy.
Love it. So there's a couple of things in here, Ryan, that maybe I think you've kind of spoken to, but maybe you can. Barbara said she completed her 4th deal last week so far this year, but no implementation team. So she feels what you're saying, assets are sitting there. And a couple other people have said that as well. So do you have any thoughts on how those people might move forward faster based on everything you know about building all the companies you've built?
It's so funny because I'm maybe the worst person to ask about this, because I'm the one that's like, let's go and do this and that. Like, Barbara, I feel you. And so, no, I mean, what I would say is don't do what I am tempted to do, which is buy ahead of the capacity on the back end. I would start from what you have. And I really think about this in terms of, I think in terms of models and analogies. So to me, you want to make sure, if you think about your company, right? Your acquisition engine, your portfolio group, the company that you're building, your holding group, that's like the sun, right? That is a star. That is the sun. And then what you really want to do is you want to acquire brands that are planets that can orbit around this sun, that can be fed by this sun. So from an acquisition perspective, maybe you've got centralized, finance and accounting and, HR, you begin to build these capabilities at the sun to support the planets. And really from a planet, I think about media properties, right? Where do we capture the attention of a known market? And then what we want to do is we want to, if they get enough mass, they'll begin to suck in moons, and the moons are the product brands. Okay. So I would be very, very, very slow to acquire more planets until you got moons circling and orbiting around the planets that you already have. Because to go and establish a completely new colony and a completely new planet without that monetization part, without the moon cycling around it, what you're going to wind up with is a lot of resources sucking from the star, but not the monetization engine coming back in. So if that analogy is helpful, what's your star? So digital marketer is a star. Digital marketer is one of our stars. It's media, and spiraling around it, we've got lab, and we've got our certified partner program. We had we had a moon orbiting around it called Traffic and Conversion Summit. Now, Traffic and Conversion Summit got big enough that what happened? It broke off on its own. It had its own mass. It's now its own planet with its own, beginning to gather other things to it. So breaking stuff off, I think can be really, a good way to think to do it, but make sure that you got the monetization things in place before you go and acquire new unmonetized properties.
Perfect. Love that. That's super helpful. Mike has a question about, he said, with your comments on the John Benson tool, do you have any thoughts about funnel scripts?
I haven't used it personally, but again, almost any of these like scripting templating tools are going to be better than starting from scratch if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm sure it's fine. I mean, full disclosure, John Benson's a personal friend. So I got access to that tool for free and have been helping him develop it and all that other stuff. So haven't really sought need to check out other tools. Doesn't mean that they're not great though.
Cool. And Kathy said she has her eye on a 3-person digital marketing agency. What would be the best deal structure to propose to them if she's the one without marketing experience? I know I can help grow the agency, she said, especially with this group's help.
I mean, you always want to provide the thing that they know they need and don't have. So I think you not having marketing experience is great because you can go in and be like, I don't have any desire to be a marketer. Y'all are great at that. What I want to do is all the stuff you don't want to do. And
which is kind of,
that's the essence of a good partnership.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of our situation, right? I mean, I came into digital marketer with a different set of skills than you guys, and it would have been kind of a waste of time for me to be also marketing and us all fighting about how to market, or just sitting there saying, "Yep, that's right. Yep, good. Yep, good." Right? But what do we do about growth? What do we do about structure? What do we do about partnerships? Those are all different things. So I think, Kathy, you don't worry about that. Is, as Ryan said, the ideal thing. You're bringing the thing they don't have.
And Roland is a good marketer. Roland's an amazing marketer in his own right. Roland, he can outmarket most of the marketing gurus that are out there. But he knew coming into this that wasn't the need, and so he de-emphasized that aspect of his role. And I think having those role distinctions and that division of labor is really critical if you're going to have additional operating partners.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you guys all for coming here today. Ryan, thank you for taking the time to come in and share all the growth stuff and other wisdom that you always have. The tools that Ryan talked about, the slides that he's got, this video will all show up in your Kajabi portal. If it's a tool that we don't own or can't give you access to for free, we'll send you a link to it. And Deanna, anything else that you would like to share with these folks? What's next?
In an hour, they get to speak with you again, Roland.
Yay. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And I've got some cool stuff. So for everybody that's new, there were a couple of things that we added to the program that did not exist before. So all of you who have come in, who came in the first challenge, we have some really cool surprises to talk with you about, and also some clarifications that I got to help you better, I think, approach deals from explaining things in the challenge. So I'm going to share those with you, and then obviously answer all the questions you have. Ryan, thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in.
Sorry, I know you're tied up. Can I do one more thing just real quick to just tie up?
You got an hour, so 50 minutes.
So here's just to keep this in mind, truly, and I'll close with this. Running and scaling a marketing team is just looking at scorecards and asking questions, okay? If you ensure that the numbers are being tracked and you say, how do we turn team? How do we turn red? We got red. How do we make it yellow and then green? How do we make, the yellow green? How do we make the green drop it down? All you have to do is ask the questions. You got to ask the questions. And if you've got the people who throw up their hands like, we don't know how to do it, then that means you don't have the right people on the team. This is not about you becoming a marketing expert. Okay. This is about you having the team in place to track these things. You know that they're accurate. You ask the questions, you hold them accountable. All right. If you build a team of people who can make red's going to happen, yellow's going to happen. If you got a team of people who can make red yellow and they can make yellow green, and then you're there to turn the greens back to yellow, growth will happen and you won't have to be a marketer. It really is. I'm not saying it's easy, but it really is that simple. So that one tool is what we're able to look at to see how we doing. how is growth, to give those forward-looking indicators. So if you're using that, use that across all your holdings. You're going to find it's easy to scale growth from even if you're just one person. So hopefully that's helpful. Thank you, Roland. Thanks everybody for being a part of this.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.